Mr. Eelaventhan, calling himself the King of Eelam, has a political career which only a few can match. From working with SJV Chelvanayakam, to being the president of the TULF Colombo branch, to having discussions with Velupillai Prabhakaran, to going all around India advocating for the self-determination of Tamils. At the age of 82, he's still going strong and has recently gotten 1 million signatures from the LTTE in order to prosecute Sri Lanka for war crimes and crimes against humanity and the alleged genocide against the Tamils.
You are told rightly, I'm 82, I'm going to be 83 by September 14th. I was born in 1932, September 14th. My career started at Tamil school, Tamil Mahavidyalam in Kolmuthurai, my village. That's on my mother's side. On my father's side, I am from Nellore. Nellore has own historic importance, as well as Kolmuthurai also his own historical importance, with the presence of Yoga Swami, who is my guru too in the spiritual field. And when we speak of Nellore, we think of Sangili, the great king, and he was captured in 1619 by the Portuguese. Till then we had a kingdom of our own. That's the most important. So when we speak of Tamil Eelam concept, we say is not separation as some people misinterpret it. Tamils had a kingdom of their own. What we had, what we lost. 1948, I was a student at St. John's College, Jaffna. My teachers, I don't want to remember everybody, but there are 3 teachers I think of in St. John's: P.T. Mattai, P.M. Mattai, and T.M. Mattai. They are all people from Kerala, but they taught us history, physics, chemistry, and allied subjects. And P.M. Mattai used to give lectures on Mahatma Gandhi and Indian freedom. That did have an impact on me. Then I was a Tamil lecturer, but we call him Kadavul Subramaniam, who taught us Tamil in a very astute, critical manner that inspired us a lot. I'm getting back 1948. So 1948, when we got our so-called independence, I mark my word, not independent, so-called independence, which resulted in the change of masters from white to black or brown. So at that time, the leader was Mr. G.G. Ponnambaram, Gajendra Kumar's grandfather. He was 2 years junior to Chelvanayakam, but Chelvanayakam accepted his leadership because Ponnambaram had all the qualities of leadership, his personality, everything. But when he went wrong or deviated, or when there was not even a tincture of honesty, as Chelvanayakam puts it, Chelvanayakam parted company and formed the Ilangai Tamil as a Kachi on December 18, 1949 at the GCSU Hall in Marathon. The Ilangai Tamil Kachi was formed with Chelvanayakam, with V. Navaratnam, with C. Vanniyasingham, Dr. E.M. Vinagana. They are all 5 pillars of our movement. Each in their own way had their impact on me. So 1948, and they had the elections too. The Tamil Congress was returned. For the election, we returned the Tamil Congress because they stood for a principle and a program. But later, within a year or so, G.G. Ponnambaram, we want to use the word strong word, betrayal. We want to use a mild term. He didn't live up to the expectation of the Tamils, especially when it came to the question of Tamils of Indian origin being deprived of the citizenship and voting rights. He was party to the government's thinking and endorsed it. But at that time, Mr. G.G. Ponnambaram, Mr. Chelvanayakam, Mr. C. Vanniyasingham, and others parted company and said, what happens to them today will go and happen to us tomorrow. That's what political vision or the concept of future. In Tamil, you can quote the Tirukkural by saying, Arivudayar Avadhira. I do not judge you because you are a qualified man, you are a BA, MA, MPhil, PhD, all those things do count. I will judge you only by your political foresight, able to see events. So at that time, when these people were deprived of citizenship and voting righs, Mr. Chairman said, today their throats are being cut, tomorrow it's going to be our turn. So, in my early days, I was influenced by Mahatma Gandhi in the Indian freedom struggle. Then when it comes to the question of Tamil, I was influenced by Swami Vedasaram, who changed his name into Marai Malay Adiyam. Vedam means Marai, Asalam means Malay, Swami means Adiyam. He started the pure Tamil movement. That also had its impact on me. That's why my original name was Kanagendra. Kanagam, Indra. Kanagam is gold or Eelam. And Indra is Vendan. So right. That impact was there in the 1940s. Then when you come to the spiritual side, immediate spiritual side, Yoga Swami was my guru, was my neighbor at Kolmutra. He taught me a lot of things on spirituality and that and this. Daily I was a disciple. Daily I go there, joining him with Thiruvasaram's famous Namachivaya Valga Nadandal Valga Sivapurana. So my life is a combination of spirituality, politics, philosophy, all combined. Though Mr. Gigi Ponnambalam said, change the master from white to black and brown, and also had a 50-50 cry, called balanced representation, 50% for Sinhalese and 50% not only for Tamils, Tamils, Muslims and all those people. So that cry had its own impact on life, but that could never have been a solution to our problem. Mere communal representation is a substitute for territorial representation won't have carried it far in the long run. It was a high sounding phraseology, but it won't have worked, and now we see that we cannot work. So at that time, what was imposed on our Tamils was the unitary constitution. A unitary constitution cannot succeed in a multilingual, multinational state. All these things I would have said it in 1948. I didn't have that kind of background knowledge. Later things I have come to know. So change the masters from white to black or brown, and Sinhalese took over the reins. And then Mr. Chelvanayam, who followed Gigi Ponnambalam, but excelled him as regards his honesty, political sagacity, courage of conviction.
Jaffna Tamils, there were people who belonged to the Eastern Tamil fraternity. Then there were Muslims who were Tamil speaking, the upcountry Tamils who had an Indian origin. So he brought together all these different formations under one umbrella.
Civil disobedience campaigns, I think, went on for a long time, 50s, 60s. Well, I believe that it was one of the best ways of getting the Tamil people's rights, rather than using violence. But it didn't work much, because each government tried to do something about it, and at that time the Federal Party was without any doubt the chief interlocutor on the Tamil people's side, a democratic interlocutor, and they would come to some agreement, and then the other party in opposition, as we know, we have a bi-party system, other party would oppose it just for very narrow political gains.
Can you tell me what your relationship was like with SJV Chelvanayakam?
So I said I was his disciple from 1956. I was working in the central bank. Daily after the work in the central bank, I get into a bus and get down at Kolpiti, number 16, Alfred Gardens. Daily, with the exception of a few days, working with him and taking down whatever notes and that and this. And I was a special disciple. He had a soft corner for me. Sometimes he used to prepare tea for me, take me to the dining room and give me the tea and bread with butter applied. He was like something like a father to me. To that extent, he was very close. And we are coming to, not to be mere sentimental, on issues he was wedded to non-violence as a cardinal principle, influenced by Gandhi and thinking to find a solution to the problem. But he made it very clear, but he told me, which many people didn't tell me, Gandhi was not a political saint, he was a very shrewd politician, he said. So he was able to foresee events, he said. And therefore, some people just blindly follow Gandhi. But he was very critical and only accepted the the principle of non-violence as applicable to in the context of Sri Lanka, where the Tamils being, I don't want to use the word minority, were lesser in number than the Sinhalese. We had this incident of Sivakumar taking up arms, and then he committed suicide following the 1974 International Tamil Conference. There was a crowd unequal. Never a president was there of people, men, women, children, young girls who would never like to get out of their house or get even for a funeral with the father mother. It was, they said it's a historic presence of men, women, children, school girls, boys attending the funeral. To that extent, he called the imagination of the entire people, Sivakumar. So at that time, I was with children. Casually he mentioned to me, Tambi, my voice on the question of non-violence and make the Sinhalese people see reason, I don't think it's going to be anyway effective as such. I'm afraid, he said, not that he was like, he liked it. He said, hereafter my voice of non-violence may not be heard, it was going to be the voice of Sivakumar. I am not imagining anything. So, but I may not live to see it, he said. So he died in April 1997. But the last speech he made in Parliament, 1976, November 19th, he said, unless we get out the clutch of Sinhala Master, we are doomed as a race. We are giving up the cry for fairness, mark my word. We are giving up the cry for fairness. It's only an independent state of Tamil Eelam that can deliver the goods. But he did add, I can't impose anything but he did say, it will be non-violent. That is in record in Parliament, November 19, 1976. But he personally told me following the incident of 1974 of Sivakumar was forced to commit suicide. He said, my voice may not be heard.
And if the Bandaranaike Children Act Pact had been implemented, there could be no question about it that this country would never have come to this stage.
And not only those facts, but the overall non-implementation by all successive governments of anything worthwhile to resolve the ethnic question, a political settlement, is because, firstly, the Sinhala leaders always use this as a leverage point to get votes in a very ugly fashion. Secondly, there were very few Sinhala leaders who had the courage to stand up and say to the extremists, you know, you are only a minority. I am convinced that the majority of the Sinhala people don't think like this, and tell them that there is a Tamil problem and we had to resolve it. They didn't have the courage.
So 1956, June 5th, Sinhala only, to me, to all of us, not only, you are unborn, you are not born. It was a turning point that the Sinhalese are out to oust us. It's not the question of Sinhala only being imposed on us. I said, early incidents of Tamils of Indian origin being deprived the citizenship and voting rights, then followed by a calculated move to have a state-sponsored colonization with a determined, calculated move to make us a microscopic minority in our home. To us, if you ask me in a nutshell, the crux of the Tamil problem as it is now, it's not the university admission problem, it's not the job-wise opportunities or any allies, all they are important. I'm not trying to belittle that you must have a university career, you must have a job of your own. But all these things you can lose and regain if you are guaranteed of your safety of your own homeland. The crux of the Tamil problem is land. So I repeat like a parrot. The crux of the Tamil problem is centered on land. Land is necessary not only for the mark my word, not only for the self-expression of an ethnic group, it's necessary for its physical survival. We learn lessons from whether be the Israelis or Jews. At the same time, I am not fanatic inclined to back the Jews and opposing the Palestinians. Palestinians are fighting to regain the land they are lost. We Tamils are fighting to retain the land we are losing.
You agree there hasn't been any success since the 1976 vertical resolution?
It was a marked decline. One thing, let not anybody blame the Tamil leadership or Tamils to have asked for an independent state of Tamil Eelam. There are two main reasons. One is historic reason. I repeat, Tamils are not a minority. We are a nation by any definition, and we had a kingdom of our own, Kenyan kingdom, this, the coastline of Maritimes, and we the Tamils. If you quote me, they may say I am fanatically inclined. I am only quoting what what Bandaranaike said in 1926 when he came and addressed the Jaffna College. He said Sri Lanka is an island consisting of different ethnic groups. The Kenyan Sinhalese, the Kenyan kingdom, the Jaffna kingdom, and the coastline Sinhalese. So two kingdoms for Sinhalese and Tamils. So we, by any definition, we are a nation. And he made it very clearly. Any man who envisages the merger of these communities, his birth, 1926, he said it, he's only living in an imaginary world of his own. He changed for the worse, that's another point. But he envisaged 1926 addressing the Jaffna College, where a judge presided over that this merger of trying to think we are one. He said, when we are fighting among the against the Britishers, we think as one. But day comes when we think of our own rights. Each group, each ethnic group has nothing but a historic phenomenon, he said. So he himself envisaged 1926. The people like Dr. N. Emperor, Colvin Arsilla, he said, don't blame the Tamils if they don't trust us. Is there 1956 over the Singapore in the therefore, we have not lived up to expectation. At that time, when he changed for the verse, Sundarlingam said, double doctrine, the double treachery, charging an emperor. After deciding over the Eelaventhan, Colombo branch of the Eelaventhan Tamil Kachi, 1977. I came home at about 10:30 11. Sinhala thugs came and hit me, and then I shouted. Then, for my luck, the neighbor Mrs. Vikramasinghe, those were Sinhalese native, they were family friends. They shouted and came. Then these people ran away. If they had not come, if they had not reached that place at that time, I would have been among those people of the fish. Then we felt things were bad. Again, we shifted for good to Jaffna by ship and another this one. So 1977. But 1958 is very important for you. When the riots took place, Mr. Benny Singh called me to his corner and said, Tambi, now we Tamils are being driven out from the Sinhalese area and taking refuge in the northern eastern part. But the day may come, he said, we may not be able to get back to our Tamil areas, and we may be dumped in the Indian Ocean, he said. 1958 itself was it's not a mere right. By that itself, I call it a genocide in a different form. Then, after that, we get the major one in 77. In between, we had eruptions like when Tamil language recognition was given. No, Sinhala was there. Special language provisions were implemented. There are two Sinhala leaders like Dr. N. and others deviated from the Marxist philosophy and became Sinhala fanatics.
So the LTTE, they killed former MPs of the TULF, Velupillai Prabhakaran and Neelan Tiruchelvam. The TULF party, you were formerly part of, you were president of the Colombo branch,
yes.
Were angered when you issued a statement supporting the killing of the LTTE former opposition leader Velupillai Prabhakaran. How do you justify his killing? Yeah, how do you justify it?
Very embarrassing question, but I must be honest because we are recording history. So Amadalingam personally was a nice man. Character-wise, everything, I have nothing to question him. But unfortunately for it, due to pressure from the Sinhala leadership and mainly from India, he deviated and from the cry for Eelam to accept the district council proposal. So we could never be a party to accept this one. There was also a period between 65-70 with Gandhi's regime also things were deviated. But again they revived to have the particular resolution. But in the absence of Chelvanayaka, Amadalingam totally deviated from this and went on justifying his modified form as the best that's available. That to me was the worst betrayal in our history. Though I feel personally attached to him because we worked together as a team. But when the things are, personal friendship has nothing to do with public function. So you are my friend now. Tomorrow if I know that you are going to be a traitor, I will call you a traitor. But the personal friendship may haunt me, I don't deny it. I was influenced and the impact was there. He had written, given me what he called forward to some of my pamphlets. Very, very closely. I was an admirer of his command of the language in English and Tamil. But why he deviated, interpretations allowed. But he succumbed to Indian pressure and Sinhala pressure. Which we will call it is unpardonable in history. Whether he should have been killed or not, that's another subject for discussion. But certainly, if he had lived, he would have succumbed to these people and gone. So the tigers may have felt, I am not trying to justify it, may have felt his continued presence would make the people shaky on fundamentals.
So anybody that deviates from Tamil
To me, I am better to a policy, a very good question, a policy and a program and a philosophy of life than to personalities. By moving closely with you, I may get attached to you, I don't deny it, I am not a saint. But I cannot justify when you deviate. I have worked with Tiruchillam, I have worked with Eelaventhan. He never made any pronouncement that he doesn't believe in what father has pronounced.
In the 1970s, Tamil leaders started to demand a separate homeland for their people. It would be called Eelam and would take in the northern region around Jaffna and the eastern province around Trincomalee and Batticaloa. Eelam became the rallying cry for the growing bands of young militants. When Tamil MPs adopted the idea, they were banned from parliament.
This was a folly, a fatal mistake on the part of the government of Sri Lanka, because what it in fact did was to drive the moderate elements outside the formal political arena and deny to the Tamil community effective political representation so that their grievances could be articulated through constitutional means. As a result of this, we have had the armed struggle emerging in the forefront of the ethnic confrontation and all other democratic forces being progressively marginalized.
The most successful of these armed groups are the LTTE, the Tigers of Tamil Eelam. The Tamil Tigers claim a fighting force of 5,000 men and women, well-trained and well-armed. They operate throughout the disputed northern and eastern provinces.
But he was very, well, later he was very close to Chandrika. They used to call her Akka as a few years his senior, something like that. Her influence was something very detrimental. But I will qualify the statement. 1995 something. This what you call Union of Regions, the proposal.
The devolution package, where they had proposed to make the north and east into one, and they
that's called Union of Regions. The powers he drafted with it was very good to start with.
Yes.
But later, she wanted all these things to be, we use the word diluted.
Well, the roots of the Tamil problem arise from the inability of governments after Sri Lanka achieved independence in 1948 to work out the constitutional foundations of a plural society. In 1956, we enthroned Sinhala as the only official language of this country, and thereby made the Tamils feel that they were second-class citizens in the country of their birth. More recently, the concerns have been with regard to education and employment. And more deeply, largely as a result of the recent events, they are concerned about personal security. The objective of the government was essentially to break the backbone of Tamil resistance. History tells us that the hearts and minds of people cannot in such a way be subjugated. I think The attempt by this government to launch this offensive was then gravely flawed by a fundamental assumption that the struggles of people for human values could be somehow contained by repressive means.
He succumbed to Chandrika's pressure and didn't want to stress that point. The original, his draft on Union of Regions must be accepted. When he found the life was so bad that he wanted to escape by going to Harvard University, and really, during that particular period shot. Mark my word, I am not justifying killing.
You're not justifying the killing of Mithalingam or
I am not killing. But events drove to that kind of state of affairs because these people deviated from the fundamentals. So when you think of a cause, whether you are important or the Tamil cause is important, Tamil cause is more important. So these deviations made the people feel leaders. So naturally, tigers who took up arms by saying, we have tried all the peaceful procedures with all the facts entailed, when everything was nullified, still to think of any solution below even a federal setup. It has no meaning, it will take us nowhere.
In 1997, while you were in Madras, you were arrested on charges of procuring medicine for the LTTE. You were acquitted in 1999. You were found not guilty and deported back to Sri Lanka. So, can you describe why you were charged with this? What happened?
Oh, very good question. Oh, you have studied my career, all right. So, what I say is that myself, Marwam from Sachidanandam, who is there in India. There's a lady, I forgot her name, former GA Sri Lankan's daughter, then myself, and then one Mr. and the young man, I forgot his name in Europe. So all these people charged for having some prescriptions to purchase medicines, which they described. We were purchasing medicine for the tigers. We said, no, we were purchasing medicine for the people there in the northern eastern parts. Who would have used it? How would have used that? But when people were dying, we thought it was our duty to this one. So that's what, and then we were charged for that. We were kept in. I was kept in the prison for 35 or 40 days, some bit more than that. But the trial lasted for nearly a year. Later they said it's a traverse and they released us.
Can you describe what your relationship was like with Velupillai Prabhakaran? What was your relationship like with him?
When I was imprisoned in 1979 under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, so then I kept there for 3 months. And released, he called me and Kova Maisen to a place where he was seeking refuge in Nallur, and we had a long chat from, we'll say from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock or something like that. That's following my arrest and my release. That's 1979. Following, I think must be somewhere latter part of December or early part. He called us personally. So we had a long chat, and he said, we know all but you are suffered in the prison, and we are in sympathy with you, and we can work together. To that extent, he said it. It is 79. After my deportation in 2000, December 4th, from India, I was in Colombo. Then I think in 2001, I went to Benny and met so many other leaders, but I didn't meet him at that time. Then 2003, after lapse so many years, October.
So, do you support the decision, the LTTE's decision to assassinate Rajiv Gandhi? Because many people say when he assassinated Rajiv Gandhi, that was a huge mistake, because in the final phase of the civil war, the India never came to back up the Tamils, and a lot of people say it's because the LTTE killed Rajiv Gandhi. Do you support that?
Yes. The case of, we wanted Indian intervention to achieve what we want, to put it in a very polished language. We were determined to deliver the child called Eelam. We want India to perform the function of a midwife to lessen the pain and agony during the birth pangs. But unfortunately for us, following when the Indo-Ceylon agreement was reached,
The Indo-Lanka Accord?
Reached on July 29th, if I remember right, 1907, the Intelligence Bureau came to my place where I stayed, number 14 Said Colony, and said, how could you issue a statement? I issued a statement that this agreement is a joint conspiracy of both governments. It appeared in the Hindu small portion, but they blocked it. I said, I did issue a statement, and I told what I told you now. I said, we wanted India to come to our rescue, but you had killed a child in the womb.
Rajiv Gandhi ke சொன்னேன் நான் பதவி ஏற்க மாட்டேன். அவையில் ஒரு ஐடியா இருந்தது, பிரபாகரன் முதலமைச்சர். பிரபாகரன் முதலமைச்சர் ஆக மாட்டார் என்றாலே என்ன அர்த்தம்? வெளி உலகத்தை பிரிட்டிஷ் வந்து பார்த்து கொண்டு போயிடும். அப்ப என்ன சொல்ல போறோம்? இந்திய இலங்கை உடன்பாடை நாங்கள் ஏற்றுக்கொள்ளவில்லை. ஏன்னா அதுல எங்களுக்கு எந்தவித எங்களுடைய அனுமதியை பெற்று அந்த உடன்பாடு நடக்க இல்லை.
But first up, a CNN-IBN exclusive. 2 days after the 20th death anniversary of former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, LTTE's former international arms procurer and Prabhakaran's right-hand man, Kumaranathan Padmanathan, has revealed what led to the LTTE targeting Rajiv Gandhi.
In that exclusive interview, Padmanathan spoke exclusively, in fact, to VK Shashikumar of THL Media Group. KP, as he is known, saying Prabhakaran was deeply influenced by the DMK's ideology. He said the party's anti-Brahmanical outlook may have driven the Tamil Tiger Supremo to plan to kill Rajiv Gandhi. He also said that later in life, Prabhakaran wanted to apologize for the assassination, adding, though, that if the LTT had a chance, they would have also tried to kill Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha.
Can you tell us, for once and for all, did Prabhakaran plan the Rajiv Gandhi assassination?
So it's a well planned and done with actually the Prabhakaran and Pottamman. It's everyone know the truth, you know. So that's this point that, okay, this young guy, I want to take 1 minute. I want to say to Indian people and especially the Gandhi family, okay, for I want to apologize for these Prabhakaran mistakes. Okay, it's you know that please forgive us. We beg you. Our people are struggling here. Okay, please help our people to live as a human.
So you were for an independent homeland for many years for the Tamil Eelam. So why did you then decide to become a member of parliament for the TNA and join the Sri Lankan government in the political process? Because you always said independence is the only way. Then you joined Sri Lanka. Why did you do that?
That was the Tigers knew. Just keep speaking of an ideal with an arms struggle alone will not deliver the goods. We had to have a supplementary and complementary movement to give a backing for their cause. I told him in parliament, some discussion, you are an able, we can record it, no problem. You are an able, articulate lawyer to present a case and win a case, but I am doubtful whether you can ever win a cause. I don't mince words on something. That is what is happening now. He's playing the fool. From we had what you call 50-50 cry and all those things, then the federalism, regional autonomy, regional council, district council, decentralization, devolution of power. When everything failed, only we spoke of Eelam. And after that, what you call resolution, all the trial and all the, after that, for him to now get back to unite Sri Lanka and a unitary constitution, preserving the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the country. What nonsense is, let the Sinhalese people speak. Dr. Devananda speak or Karna speak. How could he, as the elected representative of the Tamils, completely somersault on very fundamentals and we'll get back to unitary constitution. Unite Sri Lanka, you can have a federal setup. Mark my word. Federalism is not division or disintegration. It divides to distribute powers, preserve the essential unity of the country. allow the free play for the different ethnic groups, and preserve the essential unity of the country. But a unitary constitution cannot succeed in a multilingual, multinational state. The eventual result, the perpetual rule of the singular majority. So someone should know it better than me, but I may just adapt with it. I am 32 September 14. He's 33 February 5th. He's younger than me. I forgot. Yeah, so the people say, oh, the senior man, there is no seniority. He comes into the political at a later period, not earlier.
Before the 100-day program or during the 100-day program, and there is no program that addresses it even after the 100 days. The constitutional arrangements that we have in this country now do not accommodate the aspirations of this pluralistic society. None of these problems that we are confronted today will ever be satisfactorily resolved unless this fundamental question which has afflicted the country from independence is addressed and solved in an honourable way.
So you lost your seat in Parliament because you were absent for 3 months without leave. Why didn't the TNA renominate you?
No, very good.
Okay.
Nothing wrong. So 3 months being absent is not a sin. Immediately following 3 months, I should have been in Parliament. But if there is any necessity, somebody can raise it in Parliament and solve it. So I gave a written letter to Mr. Kanagasabai, who is not from Eastern Province, and said, if I am late for 3 months, your duty to say, I asked the extension to leave for Eelaventhan and I finished, which he didn't do it. So when they called me in Parliament, before I was removed, they said, do you accept that you were a few days late? I said, yes, a day or two late. But I said, I have given a letter to Mr. Kanagasabai to raise in Parliament. He maybe is careless, he didn't raise it. And I said, law of precedence. Said, after I came from Canada, I attended Parliament. My speeches are there Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. My speeches are recorded in Parliament. That means you have accepted my presence. Law of precedence, we say. So how could you say that I was not there? Then next question is, why in the TNA appointment? By that time, Mr. Sri Lankan, who is now contesting the TNA ticket, was a good friend of mine at the start. So when I was made, I was called, I am in the nominated nationalist, no? So he became friendly with me, because earlier I backed him for his seat in 2001, but Srinkamale. He said, Ayya, Anne, Ningal Oru Versam Virungo, very important for you. Oru Versam Virungo, Aditha Versam Nan Mandana Landani and what did he put? I didn't want to reply to him. When he came home to my residence and called me to there. But later, that must have worked in him, like Kuni in Ramayana. So he because I didn't give up my seat, no. There's no need for him to give up my seat. It was a Velupillai Prabhakaran, to put it bluntly, or LTTE. So when he put a news item in the papers when I was later, that we have appointed Imam for Eelaventhan's place, which was quite he did it on own.
Who did?
Sri Lankan, who is now contesting cities. Now he's a drunkard and I don't want to say other things about him. He is not a steady, but he's an intelligent person, a good lawyer. Started well as a career. Now, so when he put the news in the papers, Tigers were in an embarrassing situation. Because earlier they were charged that they were the cause to have driven out the Muslims, no? From Jaffna. Yes. So when they said in place for that things that were done, we are putting Imam. So this man put the news like that. So at that time, the LTTE leadership had said, no, Eelaventhan continues means it will have an embarrassment. Then Imam's name had been mentioned. If it had not been mentioned, no problem. Who made it to cut my throat? It was Sri Lankan.
It wasn't the LTTE.
No. Sri Lankan's news appeared in the papers, and LTTE could not say no, because it was flashed in the papers. And Sri Lankan did it for his ulterior motive.
So when you went to Kilinochchi shortly after you lost your seat, you went to see the senior leadership of the LTTE.
I spoke to Nadesan, he was the secretary, and Pulithavan, who was a but I didn't meet her. But Narayan said, you give us a letter, I won't hand it over to Prabhakaran about your position. I gave the letter. Then Prabhakaran told, I'm sorry for this has happened. We need his services, so let him work with you the next room for this one.
So it was said that the LTTE, they had seized your Jeep or something, they took your
No,
Jeep.
no,
that's not...
Jeep, I had the Jeep, but I couldn't use a Jeep after seizing my MP because I can't maintain it. No?
So you were okay with them taking your Jeep?
No, they didn't take it.
The LTTE didn't take it?
They allowed me to have the Jeep. I sold the Jeep later because I can't maintain it.
So the LTTE never took your
Jeep?
No,
I must put that in writing.
Okay, because there was news that the LTTE actually took your Jeep.
No,
you went to talk to them?
I went back in the same Jeep to Colombo, but I couldn't maintain. I can't maintain it without being an MP because it was a costly item, and then I was not, and I being seized to an MP. I can't be in the MP's quarters also, no. I had to leave after 3 months because I had to fight for that. So I don't blame the Tigers for it. It is the dirty trick played by Sri Lankan, and Tigers were in a very embarrassing situation to say no. Went only to propagate our Tamil point of view.
You didn't ask people to donate to the TRO?
No. The Deputy Secretary, I met the State Department, all those people I met. I gave a talk at the Columbia University.
Because there's reports that upset, the LTTE chief, Kandaswamy Karunakaran was in custody when you're in the United States.
All those people, in fact, I didn't know at that time, but I later heard that someone. Believe me when I said I can put this and say, this question never came up. I did have discussion with State Department on our problem and said we have nothing to mince words on the subject. That our problem is this one. Even the State Department or Deputy all had a long chat in the hotel also. So that is we'll call it travesty of truth.
So there's also reports when you went to Canada, you met, you had a meeting with Stephen Harper. There was a picture of you taken in the newspaper, but it was only for 30 seconds, and that's something you didn't tell anybody. And then the LTTE and everybody was disappointed when they heard that.
No. When I said, I told him in a very short visit. He said, we admire Canada for the federal constitution they are having it. We are believing in unity in diversity and not dull monotonous uniformity. If this is an ideal concept, we can give serious thought to this kind of a solution to the problem. So you can advise Sri Lanka, but Sri Lankan government doesn't want to accept it. Then you must accept the right to self-determination. All but I said is there. November 8, 2008. In fact, the Tigers didn't like me for my behavior. How did I? They who sent me to South Africa. When? 2009 January, I launched a hunger strike in all those places. I was in touch with the Castro and others. Before I launched a hunger strike, I couldn't speak to தலைவர், but through Castro, he said, ஐயா இருக்கட்டுக்கு முன்னா நோன்பு, பட் அவன் சாகக்கூடாது, அவருக்கு அந்த பிரச்சனை இல்லை, எங்களுக்கு ஆக்கள் வேணும் வெளியில் பிரச்சனையை எடுத்து சொல்கிறதுக்கு எவ்வளோ ஆள் நின்று பிடிக்கும் நீ கேட்க முடியும். My fast lasted 9 days. I was sent to South Africa by the Tigers. It was the panacea for all the political is Eelam, that I said in Parliament. But I am prepared to consider the single is so desired. Mark my word. If they want to still be with us, we have an independent state of Tamil Eelam, and single is having the single electoral Moham. We can think of a confederal structure. 2 independent states coming together for general, for common goods. But for that Sinhalese must agree. The Sinhalese don't agree to it. We Tamils are left with no alternative.
So you agree to 2 independent states under one country?
Not under two independent states. Two independent states. In one island you make. I don't want to use of a country. You are single elected, minus Tamil Eelam. The Sinhalese is so desired. We can think of a confederal structure. But for that Sinhalese must agree. It cannot be one-sided love affair. No? Tamil is like common. I want to be with you, I love you. But if you hate me, be out for my blood, what can I do? So this confederal structure can work only if the Sinhalese agree to it. Otherwise, we are left with no alternative than. But again, we are living in the 21st century. You have asked that question. We are quite conscious of the global era. We are speaking of global village. So, when we speak of independence, also interdependence. When it comes to in the world pattern, nobody said, I don't want to have any export or import or anything like that. All those things, we must be very, may I use the word, flexible, adaptable, adjustable, amenable. That we are, because we are in the 21st century. And when we speak of Tamils and things, we are not speaking of racial purity, ethnic purity, and linguistic. We speak of ethnic and linguistic identity.
When we get independent Eelam, what's going to happen to the Muslims?
The history of the Muslims in Sri Lanka dates back over 1,000 years. During this time, they have made their mark in every sphere of life and society in the country. But while there are many signs that indicate the long presence of the Muslims in Sri Lanka, little research exists that documents and traces the community's contribution to the historical, cultural and political fabric of this country.
Quote from the eminent scholar and Muslim historian Dr. M.A. Aziz, who said a few decades ago, the history of Muslims of Sri Lanka is incompletely unexplored field of research. As a result, the Muslim contribution of Ceylon history or heritage is not known fully. By this, the worst sufferers are the Muslims themselves. While the Sinhalese have their Mahavamsa, the Cholavamsa, and the Rajavali, and the Tamils their Yalpana Vaibhavamale, the Muslims have no chronicle of their own.
Very good question. Very good. We do not treat them as separate people, but the emphasis there on Islam. So we have spoken from south of Kalmani area, those areas where Muslims are predominant. We said we will give an autonomous state there for them to preserve language by same Amma, something like that. But otherwise, they speak better Tamil than some known to they use. We use Biraram.
So if they identify themselves differently, Muslims, they say they're different from
with a special emphasis for religion, we have no objection. South of Kalmana, they can have an autonomous state within the Tamil state, and we will be always respect them, respect their sentiment as well. We enough, and there are enough Muslim scholars whom we respect. My book I will give. Islam Talika Tamil, Ila Tamil, Irikalama. I argued, I never use any harsh words. So I respect their sentiments and aspirations. The transnational government is transparent. It believes in a democratic procedure and determined to win over world opinion by convincing, converting and neutralizing world opinion. That's the main function. I underline the word. We are the voice of the voiceless people. Not that we can do wonders. It was a non-violent struggle for nearly 30 years. Then about armed struggle for nearly 27 years or 30 years. Then when we were silenced by 22 countries coming into the picture and nullifying it, well, what is the alternative we have? Now it had to be, we will call it a global propaganda work.
So most recently the TGT raised 1 million signatures to bring Sri Lanka to the ICC for charges of war crimes and human rights violations.
That's right.
So I'd like to congratulate you on that huge accomplishment.
Yes, thank you again. I'm very proud of my achievement. At this age, Mr. Kurutrumar said, at this age, you have done this wonderful thing. Others help you, all right, but you were on the spot throughout all the sorts of areas.
So the Sri Lankan government, as reported by the United Nations, Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, they committed horrible human rights violations during the final phase of the war, killing and raping LTTE soldiers that surrendered, shelling hospitals, enforced disappearance. So however, at the same time, the LTTE, as reported by the United Nations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and aid workers that were present during the final phase of the war report that the LTTE used civilians as human shields forcibly conscripted Tamil youth to fight during the final phase of the war and shot Tamil mothers and children trying to flee the Vani region.
I know, the news is there, but I don't believe it.
And it's reported by the United Nations, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch. The same people, they report the crimes of the Sri Lankan government.
Anna, let me bring you in at this point, because I think you were over there just a couple of weeks ago, and I wonder if you could give us a kind of your sense of how things are on the ground from what you saw.
Yes, indeed. I returned from Sri Lanka about 2 weeks ago, and what I saw on the ground can probably best be described as a humanitarian disaster. And when I say humanitarian disaster, I refer both to those people who are trapped in this tiny area that you just described, but also those who managed to escape. In the conflict area, civilians, definitely, well, most likely more than 200,000 of them are trapped between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, LTTE does not allow them to leave, and we documented several cases when LTTE forces shot at people who were trying to flee the area.
This is just so I'm clear. And Tamil Tiger people fired at Tamils in order to prevent them from leaving. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, and that's one of the greatest problems right now. When we're advocating for humanitarian corridors for allowing civilians to leave, LTTE is a big part of the problem. They do not allow civilians to leave. They do not want civilians to leave, largely because, and again, these are some of the cases that we personally documented, when LTTE used civilians as so-called human shields to protect their positions from attack. They placed their positions in front of the camps of the displaced persons near the hospitals. So, and this is, plainly speaking, a war crime.
Okay, let me get some feedback to that here in Toronto for a second. David, you need to speak to
yes,
that.
what we hear is a different story from the ground. We hear the deep penetration units of the Sri Lankan army. They wear uniforms like LTTE. They go into the areas. They are shooting at civilians. They are putting the blame on the Tigers. That's what we hear. But we respect HRW. It's a great organization. But first of all, we have to understand they are not on the ground. They went up to Vavuniya. They heard the evidence from Vavuniya where the illegal detention camps, internment camps are being operated. People are so scared to tell the true story.
Okay, let me hear from Anna. Anna, is his explanation possible?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I think, I assume Tamils can tell a Sri Lankan soldier from an LTTE cadre. And the accounts we got were definitely not from Sinhalese propaganda. They were from people who were trapped in these areas, who themselves tried to flee, or who lost family or neighbors in these kind of incidents.
Okay, Lennon, do you have any reason to suspect Human Rights Watch's report on this?
Of course, actually, it's very clearly she has said. It's been, even the United Nations has given a very clear statement. It says, the LTTE continues to actively prevent people leaving, and reports indicate that a growing number of people trying to leave have been shot and sometimes killed. It's not my wording. It is the United Nations has issued a press statement.
Everywhere. That's why I brought it out, because every single last person in the Vani who were caught in that last time frame, they all tell the same story. And these are people who were sometimes part of LTTE's most important martyrs' families themselves. So here it's common knowledge. And they are sort of that level of betrayal, you know, okay, for them, they expect, okay, the army will do this, the government will do this. But when the LTTE did that to them, the shock of that betrayal is still, you know, they have been heavily traumatized by that.
There is little doubt that extreme acts were committed by both sides as this bitter conflict drew to an end. Many survivors say the Tamil Tigers forcibly conscripted children in the final weeks. This woman fought to save her son being taken away, but failed.
அப்போ நான் பார்த்தேன், இழுத்து பார்த்தோம், நானும் மகளும் எல்லாம் இடித்து பார்த்தோம், ஒன்றும் சரி வரல. உள்ள மக்களும் எல்லாம் எடுத்து பொடியனை பார்த்தது, பொடியனை ஒன்றும் சரி வராது. அப்போ மிளகாத்தூள் அடித்து அவங்கள அடிச்சிட்டு 4-5 பேத்துக்கு நான் அடித்தவனை தான் கொண்டு போய் என்ன 15 நாள் வச்சுருந்தாங்க.
It was while she was a prisoner of the Tigers that she heard news of her son's fate.
8 நாளைக்கு பிற்பாடு தான் எங்களுக்கு ரேடியோவில் அறிவிச்சாங்க பொடியன் இறந்துட்டாருன்னு சொல்லி.
Later, in the final weeks of the war, she watched as 2 Tamil Tiger soldiers shot dead a woman who was attempting to flee with her 2 sons. Other eyewitnesses who had been sheltering at a church claimed the Tigers marched away 600 young people and that other civilians were used as human shields.
So young people, young Tamil people,
they may
use them as to war, kill them in the Nandi Kadala
but that doesn't mean when I am personally not aware of that of LTTE involved in this.
But if they are, should there be justice?
If they are involved,
if
the word is if.
Yeah, if they're found, if there's evidence.
But again, you must know, you don't equate the offense of an oppressor with the people who are oppressed.
But in that case, it was the Tigers that were allegedly oppressing the Tamils. They were oppressing their own people.
Knowledge oppressing. They made some desperate moves. I don't know.
I would say they were desperate.
So that is, you don't equate that in a war.
Justice is justice. Either
in a war, when there's out to virtually wipe us out, we have to fight it out. Like the worm turning in, you wouldn't tell the worm how it should turn. You see, it's my argument. If you have your own different opinion, then I don't want.
But the TGT will never raise the crimes, that alleged crimes committed by the LTTE. Because people say the TGT, the leader of it, was an advisor to Prabhakaran. So that's why the TGT doesn't raise.
The main concern is the survival of the Tamil race. There is genocide, and we have to focus more at that part we are playing. We will not get lost in minor other disputes. It is genocide committed by the successive single government, aggravated in 2009 and aided by the 2000, whether it be India, whether it be America or the other 22 countries. Still they are not repentant for their sins. No, I don't believe India, I don't believe America, I don't believe all the countries for the dirty. For their independence, we were championing the cause of Pakistan, we were championing the cause of Bangladesh, we were championing the cause of Israel, we are championing the cause of Palestine. None of them came to our rescue. But still we maintain Palestine must have their freedom, Israel must have their freedom. India's independence struggle is fine. Bangladesh creation we accepted. When Jinnah created Pakistan we accepted. But none of these countries ever cared for our own freedom. It's very, very unfortunate.
So what do you think is your greatest accomplishment as an individual that has spent almost his entire life fighting for self-determination? What is your greatest accomplishment?
That I have never succumbed to any pressure more from anybody. I respect personalities. I will have difference of opinion with anybody, but that difference of opinion means that I am not going to use violence to finish them off. Difference of opinion is not a sin, but I will not tolerate any cutthroatism, especially when you come to the survival, not only for the Tamil community, anybody being dishonest in their political. I am not a politician to think of the next election. I am a statesman. I am not to boost my own personality. Statesman thinks of the next generation, not of the next election. So I have been for the ideal. Whether I achieve it or not during my lifetime, I will go down in history that I stood for an ideal.